This time of the year can feel strangely loud. Everyone's setting their goals, chasing versions of themselves they are not even sure they want. And I followed this noise for years, and I thought that I just needed more discipline. And to be honest, it quietly pulled me further away from myself. What actually helped me was learning to plan from calm instead of comparison. So before we plan the year, let's gently come back to ourselves. Before we try to figure anything out, this is a moment to slow down because clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from being present. And what we often do is we start planning out of urgency because of the time, just because everyone is planning this time. So we often feel the urgency to plan as soon as possible. We look out for planners, structures to plan, but what we often miss is we forget to check in with ourselves. We don't really think about our life situations, what's practical, what's not. But when we plan, thinking about our presence, that helps to take decisions from calm instead of pressure. And it's really important to plan after you think about your current life situations, the real life situations you are in, because your situations are unique to you, and you have to really think about what's practical in your life and what's not before you start planning. When we plan out of urgency or just because of FOMO, then it creates overwhelm and pressure to plan. You just write your goals, but we often don't think if it's practical for us right now or not. And this way, we get disconnected from ourselves because the goals we have set don't fit our real life situation. What we are doing don't feel really meaningful, or maybe the goals we have set are really unrealistic for us to achieve, and all this will eventually lead to burnout. On the other hand, when you plan being present, thinking about your life situations, then you can plan being grounded. You think practically, and this will help you to maintain focus on your goals that's sustainable for long term. We often plan the year, set our goals for the year that looks good on paper but is not realistic. And I realized this happens not because of the lack of motivation, but starting planning from the wrong place. And that's why the plans look good on paper but start feeling heavy quickly, and we can't stick to that plan throughout the year. So, what I want you to do is pause planning for 5 to 10 minutes, sit quietly and journal. How do I feel right now? What are your current life situations? This prompt will help you to reflect and notice what's going on in your life. This is not about fixing, just noticing your patterns and your present life situations. And once you have arrived in the present moment, it's easier to look back, not to judge, but to understand. And this step isn't really about analyzing your past year, it's about meeting yourself with a little more honesty and kindness. This reflection step doesn't need your intensity, it's just to analyze your energy patterns, what you have done in the past, so that you can plan being a little more realistic with your energy patterns. And before you want to change yourself to the version you want to be, understanding always comes first. So, this reflection step is just that. It will help you to understand yourself a little more deeply. And by reflecting, I don't mean that you have to criticize yourself what you didn't achieve in the previous year, because that will create pressure inside you. And so you are going to avoid reflecting, because who wants to be get pressurized, right? But in this reflection step, if you become gently aware about yourself, your energy patterns, how you think and do the things, it will make you trust yourself, and that will bring the clarity. So it's always preferable to understand yourself a little more deeply before you take any decision to move forward. How I love to reflect on the past year is noticing what drained me versus what made me calm and happy from within. And this way, I could realize small patterns or triggers in my life rather than noticing the big achievements of the year. So, here are the two prompts I want you to journal on. What gave me energy over the past year? And number two is what quietly drained me over the past year. Try to jot down short answers for these two prompts, and you will notice the patterns or triggers, what fills you in and what drains you. And once you understand what shaped you, the next step isn't about planning, it's about deciding how you want the year ahead to feel like. Before you write down your goals, before you plan your systems, there is one quiet decision that shapes everything else. When you write down how you want to feel the year, it will act like a compass or your North Star. And when you create your emotional intention behind your work, then it creates natural boundaries, what you say yes to and what you say no to. And I also feel that intention acts as an intrinsic motivation because you really know how you want to feel. And when you have defined the feelings you want to feel this year, then your thoughts are also aligned in that direction. Then it becomes easier and clearer to plan. On the other hand, when you have no emotional direction, then in most cases you are going to overcommit, and when you will not achieve that, it will make you feel guilty and live stress inside you. But when you have set your calm, intentional direction, your choices become easier and you can focus on what's needed. And this kind of intentional planning, I would say, which is based on how you want to feel, helps you be consistent without forcing yourself. This way, you don't want to feel stressed. And for that, you will not overcommit and write down too many goals for you. You will set fewer goals that's easier to achieve. And trust me, when you do this, planning will feel lighter and you will not going to plan just because everyone around are doing so, but you would rather do that intentionally because you have defined how you want to feel this year. So again, this is the prompt I want you to reflect on, which is how I want to feel this year. And you have to choose some feeling words to describe it. I prefer to choose somewhere in between 3 to 6. And once you have written down your emotional intentions for the year, planning stops feeling like a pressure and starts feeling supportive. And what I mean here is planning doesn't always have to feel like fixing yourself. It can feel like taking care of yourself. Your plans should feel realistic to you. It should be planned as per your capacity, your current life situations. And that's why we have reflected in the previous steps and really think about if it's realistic to me, if I can stick to that. And I have realized that when I create a gentle structure, it actually feels safe because whenever I tried to stick to a rigid plan, I feel guilty because I can't stick to that for a long time and eventually I give up. Instead, when I make plans that are a little bit flexible, it makes me trust myself. So, this kind of planning feels sustainable to me that leads to long term growth. So, what I mean is, when I plan based on self care, that means the plan looks realistic and a little bit flexible. That actually starts feeling sustainable and I can stick to that. So, when you start planning, thinking about yourself a little bit, making your plan a bit flexible and a little more realistic that you can actually stick to will lead you to a sustainable long term growth. So, in this step, I want you to emphasize on simplifying your planning approach and choose minimum versions you want to become. This way, you can let your plan to breathe. So, here are a few prompts I want you to reflect on before you start planning. And the first one is, would this support how I want to feel? Next, ask yourself, what would support me on the hard days? And number three is, what's the minimum version of this plan? And this is the foundation I return to before planning anything else. If there is one thing I hope you to take from this, it's that you don't need to rush to become someone new. You are allowed to plan this year slowly, honestly, and in a way that feels like you. And you can come back to this reflection anytime especially when things start to feel louder. And in the next video, I want to talk about something I have been quietly practicing, what I'm calling a soft lock in era, not forcing change, not chasing versions of yourself, but becoming unrecognizable in the calmest, most grounded way by the next year. And if the video is already live, then you can check it out right here on your stream. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.